Welcome everybody to Dharma Punx Seattle. Format is a little different today. Today we'll be doing a type of ceremony to celebrate or grieve or however you want to relate to that those who have passed on in our lives. My introduction will be pretty much the Dharma talk rather than a longer Dharma talk at the end, to give people time to speak if you want to come and take that space. For those of you who didn't catch the last talk or weren't here last week, we talked about death mostly amongst the other 5 frequent recollections. And one of the things that we talked about was the way that in our society and our culture, there typically isn't a very good way to remember those who have passed on. It's really left to the individual to do that independently, and we're also typically not taught any sort of rituals or any sort of ways of going about it. Most of us were raised to just kind of move on. Maybe you were raised quite Christian, and it's just the kind of like, oh well, they're just in heaven now. You should be rejoicing that they're gone, right? And so for those of us who have, stepped away or walked away from religious upbringings or never had a religious upbringing, being able to come into community and create spaces where we can do that, and sort of serendipitously, there is this beautiful representation of a culture who does it much better. For those of you who can't see on the live stream, there is a altar here for Deistes Mortis, and so there's definitely some inspiration in the room. We love this. So. What I wanted to start with, though, is talking about love, talking about grief. One of the 5 subjects for frequent recollection that we talked about quite a bit last week was all that is mine, beloved, and pleasing will become otherwise, will become separated from me. And through that, there's sort of this, it's not said directly, but it's saying, kind of get used to grief. Kind of get used to that grief is going to be a part of this living experience. And that if we sort of have that aversion that most of us typically do, that we're going to be set up for a pretty difficult time. And that grief, I saw a quote a while ago, and I really love it. It's, grief is love with nowhere to go. And I think that whenever, wherever there is grief, that is just evidence of there having been some love. And typically in my own life, whenever I think about grief, at least before I started to get familiar with her and get to, used to exposing myself to that, it was quite scary. Grief was something to fear. Grief was something that was bad. People die, we lose things. You're supposed to just kind of jump back, come back quickly. And grief was something that often didn't feel like it was allowed in my own life. Grief was something that maybe especially even when I was younger, I don't think I even understood how to have a relationship with grief. And so that can be like a really interesting question, not even just around death, but like, what is your relationship with grief? If we know that all that is mine, beloved, and pleasing will become separated from me, what is your relationship to grief? And so creating these spaces, creating these alternative ways to say grief is okay. This doesn't mean that like it's awful, or it's not awful that we lost, that people have passed on, that we have lost things, that there's not room for the sadness in that, but allowing for that duality to exist in our lives, so that way, we can start tapping into one of the main Buddhist tenets, which says that aversion is the problem. Not the grief itself, not the sadness of the loss itself, but the aversion to it is the problem. I should be over it already. I should, I shouldn't be sad. I shouldn't be angry about it. And making room for all of that, because it's the contrast, the reflection of love, and being able to, if we want to take on a loving practice, we talk about metta, loving kindness, being a really important practice. To balance the grief, because that's sort of where the other faults in this can be. Sometimes we become too immersed into our grief, in our sadness, and our despair, right? And it becomes very visceral, and we get lost in it. And so balancing it with its counterpart, which is love and loving kindness, which on some level there's a version of me that is like 10 years younger that's like, ew, that sounds disgusting. That sounds cheesy as fuck. Did you get that out of a Hallmark card? But through the practice, I think that I've tried a lot of the different strategies to eradicate pain, knowingly and unknowingly. And over and over and over again, one of the things that I have to keep remembering, that I have to keep becoming mindful about, and even as recent as this week, talking to my mentor, my teacher, the reminder of, oh, you're just in pain. Can you just be with it? You don't need to fix it. You don't need to fix your grief. You don't need to fix your loneliness. You don't need to fix it. You just need to love. You need to love it. And I don't know. Sometimes that's very intuitive, and sometimes it's not. And so I think this is why we come to places like this, so that way we can more often try to remember, remember that there is this other path, this other way that we can that we can try to do. Taking on some of the other recollection that I didn't talk so much about, which was last week, which was I am the owner of my actions, heir to my actions, born of my actions. Any actions I do for good or for ill, of that I'll be the heir. And so creating this space, I feel is a little bit a part of that. Taking some intentional, actionable steps toward turning toward grief, turning toward things that are sometimes difficult, versus, in my own life, maybe it's not always been intentional to forget, but I feel like in my own reflections with grief, it's I got to go back to work tomorrow. And when is there the right time to remember? Is it in 2 months? Is it in 3 months? Is it just on birthdays? Like, when am I supposed to bring this up? When is the appropriate time? Who the fuck wants to listen to me talk about this? I don't fucking know. And so creating those avenues, creating those strategies. And so that way, one of the difficult things with grief is that when we don't allow for it, when we don't allow it to be present, as it gets trapped and it goes and starts coming out in all these fucking weird ways. It makes us do weird shit that we often don't love, that we often regret. And so if we are the owner of our actions, we are born of our actions, hopefully we can be inspired by these teachings to come up with strategies to engage directly with grief. With that, I'm going to pause the YouTube video for a little bit. And if you would like to, you can come up here, light a candle, say a name, say as many names as you want, actually, for your candle. It doesn't just have to be one. I know some of us have quite the list of people who have passed on. And we'll meditate with them. And after that, I'll give people space to come up here and talk. I think that's one of the big things that I mentioned just a few moments ago, is like we have these people who have passed on, and we don't have space to talk about them, talk about what we learned or what inspired us or how fucked up it is. So, and we won't be live streaming that portion, so don't feel like any pressure on that front. So, yes, if you could.
Should start that kind of episode.
All right. Tuning back in. If you have a candle that is lit at home for your deceased, we'll meditate with them in our intentions for this meditation. Finding a comfortable way to sit that is upright. Stacking each vertebrae one on top of the other. Imagining a white string pulled, stretched tight, with your skull and vertebrae like pearls. Letting the rest of the body relax. Shoulders dropping away. Letting the belly become soft. The tongue, the eyes, the jaw. Finding your breath wherever is most accessible. Tip of the nose, rise and fall of the chest or abdomen. And setting some intention. Following the breath as though the people you named were invested. Knowing its importance. The Buddha said, breathing in, know that you're breathing in. Breathing out, know that you're breathing out. And while it's a simple, almost benign statement, there's so much richness to be discovered, to be uncovered in that statement. And so calling forth the people that you named for your candle. Imagining them encouraging you to follow the breath. Breathing in, know that you're breathing in. Breathing out, know that you're breathing out. If you find the energy around this statement becoming too rigid, too constricting, see if you can loosen the mind's grip just a bit. Maybe it's leaning in too much. Holding the breath lightly in awareness. Expanding the breath from whatever point you're at, nose or belly, to its other point. Feeling the breath move from belly to the tip of the nose and back again. Like a buoy bobbing in the water. And expanding the breath, breathing into the top of the head, the shoulders, the pelvis and arms. Fingertips, knees, to the soles of your feet. And seeing if you can drop into this space a dropper full of loving kindness. This could be a phrase. I love you. This could be just a general feeling, felt sense. Knowing what love feels like, turning that toward yourself. And inviting to mind, again, the person or people you named. Seeing what comes to the mind or heart as you bring their names to mind, not getting too lost in the story, but just seeing what comes to mind. Sadness, appreciation, memories. desires. If pain arises, meeting that with love, remembering that compassion is the coexistence of pain and love simultaneously. Maybe taking turns and switching seats with them. Instead of what you might say to them, what they might say to you. What reminders might they want to give you about you personally or death and dying? famous Thich Nhat Hanh quote that says something to the effect of, "A cloud never dies." In this teaching, he points out getting attached to a cloud would be foolish. And that the cloud turns into the rain. Collected in our rivers. Nurturing many species and plant life. And for the last several minutes of the meditation, if you feel inspired, if it seems appropriate, maybe creating a determination or adhitthana. An intention inspired with discipline to honor those who have passed on, to honor our grief, to honor our love. seeing if you can return to that thread of loving kindness in the body. As you open your eyes with the bell ringing. So for the rest of the duration, we'll just kind of go around. I'll give up the hot seat. We'll turn off the YouTube live stream, and you can feel free to come up here and share about, whoever might be coming to mind, whoever might be coming to heart. One of the things that I've done in the past is by remembering them, it's also talking about what about them, what qualities they had that inspired me, something that I feel like can sometimes be a really tangible way to carry somebody's memory, is trying to, in some form or way, take on a characteristic that I really admire about that person. Maybe not doing it perfectly, but aspirationally. My friend Alex, she was so good at taking pictures. I'm still not good at it, but whenever I think about her, I'm like, oh yeah, I should take pictures. I should take these pictures so I can remember. Because I always loved that I can look back and see all the pictures that she took. And I think about my grandmother. I think about somebody who maybe didn't always care about saying things nicely. And, for better or for worse, as a person who is a bit of a people pleaser, I really admire that. I really admire that she can be somebody who can just say what she means, even, if it might hurt somebody's feelings a little bit. And so taking on some of that energy, some of that ferocity that my grandmother wielded so intently. So, again, this is for you all, and however you want to use it is fine. I'm just giving some examples, in case, this is not of the norm. This is not natural. So maybe some light instruction could be useful. So utilizing the space to say something to that effect, or memories, if there's specific memories you want to share, funny, sad, if there's something that's just on your heart, something that came up in the meditation that just struck you as, some of the more raw grief, that's also fair and okay to share. So, thank you, those who tuned in today on the YouTube live stream. Feel free to end out the evening journaling about this, or maybe calling a friend and sharing in some form or fashion. Thank you. Act natural.
And so I have something I can see to press the button.